Welcome, 8th grade learners, to today's Explainer. I am so incredibly excited to jump into this with you because we're looking at a skill that's honestly going to change how you read, how you think, and really how you interact with the world. We're talking about the art of synthesis. Now think of synthesis like being the master chef of reading. A chef doesn't just, look at flour, sugar, and eggs and eat them all separately. Gross, right? They blend them together to bake a delicious cake. And that is exactly what we're going to learn to do with information today. We're going to take different texts, blend their ideas, and bake up some deeper wisdom.
To get us grounded, let's actually look at a piece of ancient wisdom from Proverbs. It says, "Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed." Reading multiple texts is literally exactly like seeking out many advisors. If you only ever listen to one person or read one single source, you're only getting a tiny sliver of the truth. But when you gather multiple voices, you get this much clearer, fuller picture. That's the whole shebang right there. That is the heart of what we are doing today.
So here is our roadmap for today's Explainer. We'll cover what synthesis is, why it matters, how to blend ideas, synthesis in action, and finally, wisdom, morality, and education. Let's dive in. What is synthesis?
Okay, let's start with our working definition. Synthesis is blending ideas from more than one source to form a deeper understanding or to create something entirely new. The absolutely crucial thing to remember here is that synthesis is not just reading two articles side by side. No way. It's an incredibly active, highly creative process. You are mashing up ingredients to forge a brand new, totally original insight that belongs entirely to you. You're taking what author A says, mixing it with what author B says, and boom, you get insight C.
Now, you might actually see this exact question pop up on your homework. What does it mean to synthesize, and why is it more than just comparing two texts? Well, if you're just comparing two texts, you're basically just making a list of what's similar and what's different, right? Comparing is looking at the flour and the sugar and saying, well, they're both white powders. But synthesis is actually mixing them together in the bowl and applying heat. You aren't just observing the texts from a distance, you are blending their core truths to build a much bigger, better understanding.
Moving on to Section 2, Why Synthesis Matters.
I cannot stress enough how much of a superpower this skill is, both for your life right now and way into your future. First off, it shows higher-level thinking, which teachers and future employers absolutely love. Second, it's completely crucial for your schoolwork. If you want to write killer essays, crush your research projects, or really lead those classroom discussions, you need this skill. But honestly, most importantly, it helps you navigate the real world. Think about the news. If you want to make well-rounded decisions and actually get what's going on with a current event, you have to be able to read multiple news articles, filter through the noise, and synthesize the truth for yourself.
So why exactly is synthesis considered a sign of higher-level thinking? Well, taking separate, kind of floating pieces of information and forging them into one unified logical conclusion. That takes serious brain power. It requires really advanced reasoning. You aren't just memorizing facts anymore. You're actively connecting the dots and building something new from scratch. That right there is the very definition of a sharp, active mind.
All right, Section 3, How to Blend Ideas.
So how do we actually do it? Here's your 4-step playbook to becoming a master chef of reading. Step 1, read each text carefully and identify the main ideas. Like, what is the core message of each? Step 2, look for the connections. How are these ideas similar, or how do they build on each other? Step 3, and this is where the real magic happens, combine those connections into a single statement that captures the shared meaning. And finally, Step 4, support that brand new statement with solid evidence.
Actually, let's pause on Step 4 for a second, because this perfectly answers another key homework question you're probably going to see. What kind of evidence should you use in a synthesis? The answer is that you absolutely must pull specific evidence from each source to prove your newly blended conclusion is solid. You can't just rely on text 1 to prove your point. If you blended two texts together, you need to show the evidence from both of them working together to back up your big idea. Make sense?
Section 4, Synthesis in Action. Let's look at some real-world examples.
Okay, here are our first two ingredients. On the left, text 1 is a factual biography describing a historical leader's courage. On the right, text 2 is a really emotional poem praising bravery in difficult times. So we've got cold hard facts on one side and deep emotion on the other. Steps 1 and 2 tell us to read them and find the connection. And well, both are talking about standing strong when things get incredibly tough.
Now for step 3. We mash them up, and here is the synthesized gold we get out of it. Courage in the face of challenges is a timeless and universal value. Notice how that single sentence just beautifully captures the historical facts of the biography and the universal emotion of the poem. We took two very different things and created a brand new, much deeper insight.
Let's try another one. This time, text 1 is a broad, general article explaining various renewable energy sources. Text 2, on the other hand, is a highly specific data report showing the financial benefits of putting solar power in schools.
And this brilliantly illustrates the power of synthesis. Check this out. Renewable energy, especially solar power, can help schools save money and protect the environment. By merging that broad scientific text with a very specific financial report, we get this highly practical, deeper understanding of how solar power directly benefits schools, both for their wallets and for the planet.
For our final mashup, we are going to cross genres entirely. Text 1 is total fiction, a short story about a character overcoming poverty. Text 2 is totally nonfiction, a real-world news feature covering programs that help low-income families.
When we blend the fictional narrative with the real-world news, our synthesis is support systems can empower people to rise above economic hardship. Now listen, if your teacher ever asks you to give an example of finding a common theme between two completely different types of writing, like a made-up story and a real news article, this right here is exactly how you do it. You look right past the format, you find that shared human truth, and you synthesize it.
Section 5. Wisdom, Morality, and Education.
I want to slow the pace down for just a moment here. In the Academy Godly Learners series, there's this core philosophy that intertwines biblical morality with education. And it's simply this: education without morality will hurt. Think about it for a second. What is the point of being incredibly smart, mastering skills like synthesis, and being super highly educated if a person continues to make bad, harmful choices? If you build this incredible intellect but totally neglect your moral foundation, your education isn't truly serving you, and it's certainly not serving the world. You have to synthesize your brain power with your character.
You know, the active discipline thinking required for reading synthesis is actually incredibly similar to the spiritual discipline required for life. Romans 8:6-7 promises peace of mind to everyone who keeps their mind spiritual. Engaging with deep, truthful content and maintaining a strong moral compass gives you real clarity. When you synthesize your academic learning with a spiritually and morally grounded mind, the result isn't just getting an A on a test. The result is true peace of mind.
Which leaves me with this final thought for you to carry with you today. As you continue to build your education, how will you synthesize your sharp academic mind with your moral and spiritual wisdom to create a better future? I want to challenge you to be a master chef, not just with the texts you read in school, but with the character you build in your life. Blend them together and just see what incredible things you can create. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.